This is not only a problem of freedom of speech, but this is a problem of justice at the same time.
Beautifully said. If we can look at some of the fears that Turkey might have if they were to recognize the Armenian genocide as such, one is the claims that recognition of the genocide will change the geographic and political surroundings of Turkey. This, I'm assuming, is a fear of partitioning the country the way they partitioned the Ottoman Empire, maybe.
This fear is the long-standing demise process of Ottoman Empire, started 1800 and continued until 1923. The empire altogether, the Ottoman Empire, lost maybe it is 80% of territories and maybe 90% of the population, and the Anatolia is the last resort of the Turks they could save. So, as we know, 1920, there were other plans for Anatolia. The Great Britain, France were supporting Armenians, Greeks, and Kurds, and Anatolia were also partitioned among different ethnic and national groups. And Turks won the war between 1919 and 1923, then established today's Turkey, and so they considered any attempt opening a discussion towards history as reviving the Sevr agreement, reviving of the partition agreements of Turkey. This is a long-standing problem, but it has no real tangible meaning for today, because Turkey is the most powerful country in the Middle East, and there is not a serious threat regarding Turkey's boundaries or Turkey's sovereignty, and Turkey's basic problem is the lack of democracy in Turkey.
And you also talk about facing our past atrocities is good enough for the U.S., then it should be good enough for Turkey. And I wanted you to expand on that a little bit, because it would be nice to look at what countries like the U.S., I know we haven't always owned up to our atrocities, but we have in regards to slavery and to some degree to the Native American atrocities that occurred in this country. How has the United States benefited from recognition, which now they, in a sense, are denying Turkey of because they're not calling the atrocities as genocide?
I mean, I have to repeat my central argument. I think the United States policy towards recognition is, or can be summarized best with the French concept, it is good enough for the East. Mm-hmm. United States should really demand only the same thing that it is doing for itself. What I mean is following: the idea of criminalizing discussion about American slavery or the treatment of Native Americans because of security issues or whatever, or uniformly to refer all these events as so-called, alleged, and fill the government websites with racist, hate-filled propaganda, or the imagination of forcing American children, for example, here, to watch films denying that slavery or the subjugation of Native Americans ever took place. This could be maybe viewed here as a sick joke here in the United States. Yeah. But the United States supports a government that explicitly have been doing it for years.
Right. And well, you're referring also to the Serigunan videos, which recently the Turkish education minister had sent out these propaganda videos forcing the kindergartens to watch.
It's true. For the reader, we have to maybe explain that. Recently, Turkish education ministry distributed a video in the Turkish schools and forced Turkish children and Armenian children also, of course, in Istanbul to watch these movies. And this movie is really a racist, chauvinist, a movie that's full of hate against Armenians, and the main topic of the movie is how Armenians organize a genocide against the Turk, and then the students had to watch this movie and had to write an essay on it. This is sort of really a sick joke, and unfortunately, if America continues to deny its own archival records, and America denies to acknowledge this historic reality, this means they are supporting such a regime in Turkey.
Right. And one last question for you, Dr. Akcam, which is a personal one. Recently, the Turkish police confiscated documents from an ultranationalist terrorist organization, the Ergenekon, I believe they're called, and your name was on the list along with 4 other Turkish scholars. Hrant Dinks was on there, who was murdered in 2007. Orhan Pamuk was another one. I know you have been faced with many threats and government intimidations as well. How do you deal with it all? Do you still go back to Turkey? Do you visit the homeland?
I'm not going to Turkey. I have been not traveling since Hrant Dink's assassination. I was last time at his funeral, and I'm secure here in the United States, and the main issue is that the other intellectuals in Turkey, there are some of them still under police protection, and thanks God that these operations are going on against Ergenekon. Meanwhile, there are now more than 200 people in prison, and every day the police finds out new weapons in different places. Mm-hmm. So there is some positive developments there also, but it is still risky to go to Turkey for the people like myself.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Akcam. Dr. Akcam is a professor of history at Clark University. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
When all the voices sound like raindrops in your...
That is it for today's show. The music which you heard today is from Echo Cell. They will be one of the bands performing tomorrow night at Troubadour in West Hollywood, where a portion of the proceeds go to benefit the Armenian charity in Yerevan. For further information regarding the show at Troubadour, you can call 310-276-1158 or visit echocell.com. That's echocell.com. A special thanks to our engineer G and to all of our guests, and to you, our listeners, for keeping Radio Intifada on air for the past 7 years. I'm Lucy DerTavitian. You've been listening to the Southwest Asia and North Africa Collective of KPFK. You can also listen to us online at kpfk.org. Please stay tuned to The Insiders with Maria Armoudian.
In your mind, and all the small things won't even matter in time.
Hi, I'm Brian DeShazer, Director of the Pacifica Radio Archives. Join me, Amy Goodman, and KPFK General Manager Sean Heidkemper on Friday, April 24th, as we open the evening with a conversation about the state of media today and 50 years of KPFK radio. Then we'll hear Amy Goodman and her brother and co-author